In today's news, the BVI government allocates some $5 million for legal fees for the Commission of Inquiry, Tiber Health Public Benefit Corporation, to establish a medical school here in the BVI. Eustace Boss Freeman has been appointed Director of Recreation Trust. USVI, Governor Bryan says, will be among the last jurisdictions to lift the mask mandate. And PAHO urges Caribbean region to ramp up the vaccine production. In addition to that, we are covering mental health and youth, and the BVI government granted full participation in the Commission of Inquiry. All this and so much more when 284 News returns.
Father Jesus, that line here long like church service.
Alright, do enjoy the rest of the day. Next customer line, please. Wait, hold on a second.
Yes, Sonny boy, come, yes,
Good
Sonny.
morning.
Good morning, Sonny boy. Hold on there. You must have cut front of people.
It's okay, I'll take care of it.
What? No man to take care of me.
How may I assist you? You want top of power?
You want top of power?
Join the prepaid party with CCT and enjoy more affordable data plans, more top-up promotions, more savings with hero bundles, and more value for your money each and every Tuesday with Top Up Turn Up Tuesday. Visit a CCT store today or anywhere CCT Top Up is sold and top up your phone.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. You want top of power?
Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday, May 25th, 2021. I'm Ron Grant, coming to you live and direct from Tortola, Road Town in the British Virgin Islands. A terrific Tuesday to one and all. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, before we get into our newscast, just touching on a few items. Government has been exploring the private sector anti-vaxxer layoff. USVI and BVI officials have met to discuss ferry passenger limits, which has increased. The government legal fees for COI has been capped at $5 million. We're going to get into that in our newscast. And the Honorable Marlon Penn is concerned that farmers and fishers grants not under the subject ministry. Local yacht captain fined for falsifying documents. And our premier says legislators must be retiring with dignity. He defends the increased benefits for retired legislators. And he continues to say, it pains my heart for the non-payment of allowance to Joint Agency Task Force. Beginning on the local scene here in the British Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands Health Services Authority is notifying the general public that as of May 21st, the Longlook Community Clinic is temporarily closed for maintenance. Persons who utilize the facility for medical services are being urged to refer to the East End Clinic until further notice. The BVI Health Services Authority apologizes for any inconvenience this temporary closure might have caused. Up to $5 million in legal fees have been approved by the BVI government in the ongoing Commission of Inquiry. This was revealed by Premier, the Minister for Finance, the Honorable Andrew Foy, at last Thursday's media conference, where he said that 2 law firms were selected to assist both the government and the House of Assembly in the COI. According to Foy, representing the executive branch will be the Attorney General Don Smith, who will be leading a team of attorneys from the United Kingdom law firm Withers, which is accompanied by Queen's Counsel Sir Geoffrey Cox. Now, in addition, the House of Assembly will be represented by law firm Silk Law, and the Premier explained why 2 separate law firms were necessary. Take a look.
The Cabinet has approved that all the legal assistance would not surpass $5 million overall. Not to say that we're anywhere close to that, because there are 2 sets of legal teams, but the government's legal team is the Attorney General, who is leading the team of Withers and Sir Geoffrey Cox. In terms of if matters come up on the House of Assembly side solely, that is separate from government, then they cannot represent you other than the Attorney General. And the House of Assembly made a decision for, I think it's Silk Law. But that Silk Law does not represent the executive arm of government, only that in the House of Assembly side.
Now, the AG Chambers has been said to be understaffed, and Premier Foy also highlighted what he termed as long outstanding issues being faced in the Attorney General's office. He said there was a deficiency in the necessary resources coupled with a failure to prioritize the AG's chambers. Listen in.
Now, we have made it a priority and have make sure the resources are there for the Attorney General to seek and get more lawyers into the chambers and get it fully staffed so that it can be up to date to function with the current demands of the territory. So because of that, the Attorney General agreed, well, there will be need for some help.
Now, viewers, in justifying, the Premier said the BVI's reputation is worth more than $5 million. The leader of government business further justified why such a high budget for legal fees was needed, stating that the BVI's reputation is at stake. Take a look.
I'd also like to tell you, other than the cost being no more than $5 million overall, the cost of your name not being defended is more than $5 million. Because the terms of reference of the inquiry is very broad. And let's face it, it's not something positive being thrown throughout the world. And in Shakespeare, the Bible, and many other known persons say that when you take a man's name, you take everything. So we're not just fighting to pay $5 million for legal fees. We're fighting to make sure that we protect the name of the Virgin Islands for generations present and future.
Now, viewers, the Premier noted that the total expenses up until press conference time did not yet exceed $2 million. In a recent cabinet decision of the Virgin Islands, it has been confirmed that the cabinet has approved the recommendation for a Tiber Health Public Benefit Corporation to establish a medical school here in the territory of the Virgin Islands. Cabinet also decided that the corporation be granted a provisional license pending accreditation by the Accreditation Commission on Colleges of Medicine, and that a full license be granted once accreditation through ACCM is obtained, and noted that the steps in the accreditation process as communicated by ACCM and agreed that they be implemented based on the recommendation timeline, following vetting, of course, by the Attorney General's chambers. Now, Tiber Health Public Benefit Corporation, located in Ponce, PR, United States, is part of the colleges and universities industry. Premier and Minister for Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, stated recently that 2 medical schools are showing interest in coming to the territory of the Virgin Islands. Also, in a recent cabinet decision of the Virgin Islands, it has been confirmed that cabinet has considered and approved the Recreation Trust's recommendation that Mr. Eustace Boss Freeman be appointed as the executive director of the trust for a period of 3 years in accordance to Section 6A1 of the Recreation Trust Amendment Act 2012. Now, the trust has been restructuring and reorganizing the organization, which also sees Mr. Stephen Payne being appointed as Director of Operations. Payne was appointed Executive Director of the Trust in 2013, a position he held until earlier this year. Freeman, who is presently the Sports Programs Officer within the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth Affairs, Fisheries, and Agriculture, is expected to transition to his new role within the coming weeks. Now, viewers, the Recreation Trust is a statutory organization which falls under the Ministry of Education and Culture and assists the ministry with development and maintenance of recreational grounds and facilities throughout the territory of the Virgin Islands. Viewers, still ahead, the BVI government granted full participation in the COI, and the USVI is said to be among the last jurisdictions to lift the mask mandate. That is according to Governor of the USVI, the Honorable Governor Albert Bryan. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
The win.
What in the hell?
I'm freaking out.
Gender
is about these people.
It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the...
What's poppin'? What's really good?
Davis has won it for the Lakers.
Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and our partners that hold us down. It's season 2 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, taking you on the most inspiring journey with the best and brightest distinguished gentlemen of the BVI.
Raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men like you've never seen them before. Governor Augustus J.U. Jaspert, Jovan Klein, Neil Klein, and so much more. Turning modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen with yours truly, Ron Grant, a 284 Media production. Is business slow? Cash flow down? Hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media@cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Viewers, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with us. Now, continuing on the local scene here in the British Virgin Islands, the government of the Virgin Islands has successfully applied to the Commission of Inquiries for all ministers, ministries, and government entities, including the cabinet, to have the status of a participant and to be represented in the whole of the inquiry by the Attorney General, the Honorable Don Smith, together with counsel, the Honorable Sir Jeffrey Cox, QC, and members of the law firm Withers. Now, status as a participant under Section 12 of the Commission of Inquiry Act allows that the government be represented at all hearings and will also provide ministers and cabinet with a fair opportunity to express their views on matters that are the subject of the inquiry by the Commissioner. Now, the members of the House of Assembly have been granted similar status and are separately represented. Following the commencement of hearings of the COI, the government has reiterated the policy of cooperation and transparency with the COI and welcomes the Commissioner, Sir Gary Hickenbottom's comments, thanking public officers for their hard work and good faith in, of course, conducting the extensive disclosure that has resulted in the provision of over 5,000 documents and over 85,000 pages of documents to the inquiry since March. Now, after the request of the COI, further checks are now being carried out by public officers to ensure that all relevant documents have been gathered and disclosed. The Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Andrew A. Foy, as well as other senior ministers and public officials have attended hearings of the COI in the last few days to give evidence to the Commissioner, Sir Gary Hickenbottom. Now, the government of the Virgin Islands is mindful, they say, that the COI does not during its stages of its proceedings, wish to give notice to witnesses of the matters and documents on which it intends to ask questions. The government understands that the COI has decided to hold these first hearings in private so that any sensitive information, such as the affecting of national security, can be considered before the transcripts are published. However, in pursuit of its policy of full cooperation and transparency, the government of the Virgin Islands has consented to publication of the full transcript of each day of the inquiry without editing, with a single exception on a matter of national security, thus making available to the BVI public a complete record of the COI's formal proceedings thus far. Now commenting, Premier Foy said, and I quote, "I am pleased that the government has been granted full participation status and that the right of the represented at the whole of the inquiry from the onset. The government has stated its policy of cooperation and transparency in the keeping with that policy. We have voluntarily," he said, "answered all requests for hearings and have supplied thousands of documents. This has required considerable effort and has been time-consuming, for which I thank all public officers. The government continues to do it all it can to assist the Commissioner, and I am happy that the ministers will soon have the opportunity to present their views to the inquiry on governance and other important matters." That was Premier Foy. Now, the government of the Virgin Islands is encouraging all citizens, residents, and government employees to cooperate with the COI. The government desires is to set and to see a robust, fair, transparent, and balanced proceedings amongst the COI. Over in the USVI, while a growing list of states have adjusted their mask mandates to reflect the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's decision to ease restrictions for vaccinated people, Governor of the USVI, Albert Bryan, said recently that not only will the U.S. Virgin Islands mask mandate remain in place, the territory, he says, will be among the last jurisdictions to lift its current no mask, no service policy. Mr. Bryan pointed to what he said was the CDC's lack of guidance relative to how local and state governments should distinguish between persons who are vaccinated and those who are not. And he said more Virgin Islanders, need to be vaccinated, even beyond the government's goal of 50,000 complete vaccinations by July, before lifting the current protocol. He said, and I quote, "Removing the masking requirements and simply relying on the honor policy at this point is not something we think will protect our community against the spread of the virus." He added that the majority of people that call the territory of the U.S. Virgin Islands home have not been vaccinated. He said the territory, as of last week, they now have a 50% state where persons in the territory have been vaccinated, and a low percentage, he said, of those fully vaccinated against the virus. According to Dr. Esther Ellis, VIPD Health territorial epidemiologist, 30,109 Virgin Islanders were fully vaccinated as of last week, while the additional 39,171 persons had received their first dose, which equates to a 49.3%. That is now up to 50%. Combined, a total of 69,280 persons have received either the first or second shot of COVID-19 vaccine in the territory of the USVI. She said, "We're making progress toward our goal of vaccinating 50,000 Virgin Islanders, but we still have a long way to go in achieving the herd immunity that we know will keep our community safe." Now, Mr. Bryan added, "Even when we hit the 50,000, we will still need more. We cannot afford to take any steps backward in our path to normalcy." Mr. Bryan said during the Q&A segment of the press briefing last week, "We were the first and will probably be the last to lift the mask mandate." He added, "It can't hurt. Most of the people have gotten used to wearing their mask. When I talk to residents, they don't have a real problem with masks. We don't have a problem arresting people. We've been doing a good job at that. So if we've got to arrest tourists coming here because they won't wear their mask or have disorderly conduct at hotels, beaches, or any place else, so be it," the governor said. Now, the CDC said last week that fully vaccinated people didn't need to wear a mask or social distance inside or outside. In a small, large setting, they should, however, continue to wear masks when on a plane, train, or bus, and the guidance does not apply to facilities such as hospitals, prisons, and nursing homes, and the health agency. Now, viewers, still ahead, we take a look at mental health and the youth in the Virgin Islands, and PAHO urges Caribbean region leaders to ramp up vaccination production. All this and so much more after a word from our sponsors. You're watching 284 News.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
What the hell?
I'm freaking out!
Gentlemen, is about these people.
It's always a pleasure coming to you live and direct from the
What's poppin'? What's really good?
Davis has won it for the
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for your time. Mental Health Awareness Month, observed in May, covers the mental well-being of all. Its purpose is to raise awareness and educate the public about mental illnesses such as the persons who suffer from depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar disorder, the realities, of course, of living with these conditions, and strategies for attaining mental health and wellness. This year's theme is Tools to Thrive during COVID-19. Recently, I sat down with consultant to the Wellness Center, Mr. Jovan Klein, to discuss the mental health awareness and the youth in the territory. It's been said, of course, that the youth are our future. I believe it's high time for us to protect and nurture them, beginning with their mental health. Take a look. Mental health awareness, where are we from your vantage point when it comes to the youth of our territory?
Ron, I think we're actually making some progress. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, just considering where we're coming from as a culture, where we're coming from in terms of our understanding of, what mental health actually is, canceling out some of the stigmas that we have, canceling out some of the fears that we have. We have some ways to go, but we have made a lot of progress, especially with the new age of thought that we can all access. That's not just based on, who's immediately around us.
All right, wonderful. Now, when we think of the state of mental health, you mentioned, of course, culture. What aspects do you think work for us and perhaps even against us culturally as it pertains to mental health awareness specific to the youth of our territory?
That's a good question. I'll start with the things that work for us. Definitely our culture of small village or small community togetherness. It works for us where, we have people that we can reach out to, where we have a familiar face that we can see when we're walking down the road. We feel known, we feel seen when it comes to being recognized or being understood. When you look at bigger societies, it's kind of difficult to see people or find a lot of people that can say that they have somewhere that they feel a part of, or they have a group, or they have a village that they're ingrained with, where they can go down the road and hail up this person and hail up that person, or get something from this person, get something from that person. We live in a society where just about everyone is our neighbor, and that's something that definitely works for us. Things that work against us, coming back to that small community mindset, the negative side of it is that we often want to seem better than we are.
Wow.
We often want to seem like we are always okay. We don't want to stand out as being the individual or the person that is weird or unsure or afraid. So because of that, we hold a lot of things in. Because of that, we operate, at a certain pace or go along with certain ideals or mindsets that we are not necessarily in agreement with at the time, or, we operate like we're in a stage of life that we're not necessarily in. And that causes some strain and some pressure and some stress that really has an effect on us. And we don't feel like we can reach out to someone who would understand, because again, everybody else seems to be along that same boat in the small setting that we have.
And speaking of having someone to reach out to, when you look at the youth of the territory, what are the avenues for them locally available for those who are suffering with mental illness in the territory?
Now, professionally, we have a variety of options. Of course, we have the Wellness Center. Doors are always open for parents and young people to reach out. Within our schools, we have our school counselors.
Yes.
We have other private organizations that offer therapeutic services, talk services, stuff like that. We live in a place with so many churches, and finding the right minister to speak to. It doesn't have to be the head of that church. Finding the right minister to speak to within a church, kind of gives you a good lift. And even if you just break it down to the basic social day-to-day life, in many communities, there's that grandmother or that grandfather or that aunt or that uncle that you can reach out to. We have a lot of elderly people who, luckily for us, are able to see us grow. So when they see us taking a certain path at times, they're able to point something out to us and say, hey, you've changed, or hey, I'm noticing this about you. You look tired, come for a glass of water. Things like that, even though a bit rarer in these days, they still do happen. So those are good things. Yeah.
Wonderful. I want to talk about exposure. Believe it or not, in such a small community, just like you mentioned, we sometimes try to ignore the level of exposure that our young people are open to. Speak to that and its impact on their mental health.
The topic of exposure is something that I stress on a lot when I speak to young people. The scary thing about the level of exposure that young people have is how quick the accessibility to the rest of the world has happened. Whereas, let's say a few years back, if you were to experience or witness someone dying, that would be cause for you to get therapy, or it would be a major event.
Yes.
Whereas now today, you go on Facebook, you just turn on the news, and they're showing people dying. You can find horrific scenes, traumatic scenes, just at a few clicks. And these images, these videos are being exposed to young people on a daily basis, and it's really causing a lot of desensitization. And it's causing a level of stress that won't be noticed on an everyday basis. Because, the body knows how to cope, the mind knows how to cope. So when you're taking in something constantly, it won't always be shocking. But just because you don't feel the effects don't mean that there aren't things building up. So we're seeing a lot of young people walking around a bit more stressed, they're a bit more on edge, they're a bit more nervous or anxious to the wall because they have already been exposed to a lot of the dark scenes that are around in the wall. Unfortunately, even though the BVI is a part of the wall, we do live in a very, very protected space. However, with that exposure, your body is operating and experiencing conditions that are not necessarily true to your immediate surroundings. Okay. So while you live in paradise, you are living a life of anxiety and fear as if you are in a war zone.
That was Mr. Jovan Klein on a very important matter as we continue to support the youth of the territory in making sure that their mental health well-being is of paramount importance. Ramp up vaccine production for the entire vaccine value chain without compromising quality. This was the urgent call of the director of the Pan American Health Organization to concerned manufacturers in the Caribbean in a bid to address the glaring gaps on the vaccine dissemination across the region. Now, in a recent report, PAHO Director Dr. Carissa Etnon told reporters that the expanded region production of medical products, which includes vaccines, could be key to fast-track the administration of vaccines to the region's citizens. According to Etnon, only 3% of people in Latin America and the Caribbean have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19. By producing, she said, the essential medical supplies locally, the region will be able to reduce its overdependence on imports, and the waiting time for the delivery of vaccines will be reduced as well. Now, data show that only less than 4% of medical products have been used for the COVID-19 treatment that came from the Caribbean region, and this, of course, again, is of paramount importance. Viewers, that story is available on our website. We have no more time, but thank you so much for tuning in to our daily newscast. We appreciate you so very much. We hope you had a wonderful weekend, and we're wishing you an even a better week. Happy Tuesday. Have a good rest of the day. I'm Ron Grant. Bye-bye.